Farva
Yep.
is.
Yes.
And so he's traveled and done some of the training himself, but he's got such a wide social media reach
Sure.
that when he talks about call for backup, um, there are a lot of people listening, and so
Yeah.
it's nice to nice to have that connection for sure.
Yes. Yes. Well, gosh, I don't even know where to begin. This is first of all, your Facebook, your social media, everything that represents call for backup is so extensive and so multi-layered. There's so much going on. There's if buzzwords like police stress and stress management and suicide prevention and fatigue and burnout in law enforcement are words that get your attention, this is one show tonight you absolutely do not want to miss. Over 12,000 people follow Call for Backup on Facebook alone, which is a nonprofit organization that provides free training in suicide awareness and prevention for first responders across our country. And it's in partnership with Humanizing the Badge Incorporated, co-founded by author and educator and police chaplain David Edwards and his son, Mike the Cop. David is board certified in crisis response and pastor counseling, and is an approved instructor for the International Critical Incident Stress Foundation and a member of the International Law Enforcement Educators and Trainers Association. It is with great honor that we welcome you to Air It Out tonight, sir. Thank you so much.
I'm extremely happy to be able to answer the call and be part of the show tonight for sure.
Just glancing quickly at your Facebook page, it says our unique training program helps first responders understand how the stresses of the job impact them, and also helps them see how certain skills can make them more resistant to stress and more resilient when a major stressful event occurs. I will be the first person to tell you that the folks that I have that I'm friends with who are EMTs, paramedics, fire department, police, I say to them all the time, I'm a broken record. I say it to them all the time. I don't know how you do it. How do they do it?
Well, many of them would tell you that they feel like they were designed to do it, that they feel compelled to do it, that they feel like it's a calling, that it's something that they were just made to do, meant to do. They would feel like they were shortchanging themselves and the people that they have the opportunity to serve if they were to do anything other than fulfill that calling that they have on their life. I mean, it's the same thing with those who volunteer for military service. It's the same thing with those who volunteer for any kind of frontline occupation. I think we're seeing that a lot more even in this COVID pandemic situation with our healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, lab techs, phlebotomists, people who work in the emergency room as paramedics, even, and the nurses and so on. I mean, they're right there on the front lines, but they're doing it because not just because it's a job, because a lot of them could do a lot of other jobs. They're intelligent people, they're highly motivated people, highly energized people. There are a number of things that they could do. They choose to do what they do to serve other people in that way because they just feel drawn to it, like I said, like a calling. But they also suffer a lot of consequences as a result of that in any of those occupations. And our call for backup training does focus on understanding where the stress comes from, how to be more resistant to the stress. In other words, what skills do you need before the stress starts hitting, in order to do a better job of sort of warding off the effects of the stress? And then how do you develop resilience? How do you uh, become the kind of person who can bounce back more quickly in the aftermath, especially of a really significant traumatic event? And a lot of our first responders, of course, deal with multiple traumatic events, not just the day to day stuff that they put up with, but the many critical incidents, we would call them, the multitude of traumatic events that they experience over the course of a career. How do you become resilient enough to keep seeing those things, to keep hearing those things, to keep doing those things, and still bounce back and be well, be whole, and still be able to effectively do your job? And
As human beings, is it possible for us to be resilient to this level of stress, especially when we're seeing things, hearing things, experiencing things, and the aftermath that goes with them? It's not just an event that takes place and then an hour later it's gone. They have families that they have to deal with for weeks and months afterwards. Is it possible to be resilient of all of this kind of serious stress, especially when in real life we're coming home to troubled marriages, problems with our children, acting up, or whatever it may be? We've got financial problems, whatever it may be. We come home, we walk through our door, and now we've got a whole different layer of stress.
yeah, exactly. Um, Law enforcement, among the other emergency services professions, certainly one of the most stressful occupations that you can find anywhere. And on top of that, they do deal with just the average daily stresses outside of work that everybody else has to deal with. And one of the most important things for resilience is having a strong network of social support, family and friends who understand you, who know how you communicate, know when to communicate and when not to. Just kind of develop a a rhythm within that social network that promotes more healthy ways of managing the impact of the things that are stressing us out from the job. Family is healthy, certainly that works well. But a lot of times, the first responder will come home and is not managing the stress well, and does take it out on the family. And then, rather than the family rallying around that person to say, let's be a part of the solution here. Let's be a part of the healing from this situation. All of a sudden, the rest of the family becomes stressed out, and then that person who brought that into the family environment all of a sudden becomes the enemy, and everybody else in the family becomes the victim. and
Sure.
and and so they start building up resentment against that person who has brought this turmoil into the family. And I mean, it could be a really slow negative spiral going down, or sometimes I've seen those negative spirals go pretty quickly in the aftermath of some really significant events. So some things that we try to teach in our program, of course, are how to have those kinds of healthy family relationships, other social networks that we rely on, um, both within and outside the profession that we work in. um, and tell people, look, you need to talk about things, you know kind of like
Yeah.
the name of your podcast, air it out.
Yeah.
You gotta air it out once in a while.
Yeah. Sure.
You
One of
don't
the
want to live with the stink.
right, right. One of the hashtags that I've seen attached to your cause and call for backup and humanizing the badge is stop the stigma. This is a career, whether it's fire, EMS, hospital, emergency room, paramedic, doctor, whatever it may be, where we are expected to be the toughest of the tough, especially those that are in this field who have had some military training,
Hmm.
and we have to be tough and to show that we are emotional or troubled by something and we just can't shake it off. Um, Whatever it may be, pride, which can be such a dangerous and destructive thing, but whatever it may be, um, you have a quote on, I think I saw it on your Facebook page, that says, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." A nice sentiment, or sentiment rather, but all too often it is, um, it's still killing you. It's
Right.
just killing you more slowly.
Right. Yeah, that's the title of the article. What doesn't kill you dot 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 is still killing you.
Right.
And that I think that is the sad reality that we see in a lot of veteran personnel, especially where they're dying a slow death
Yeah.
over the course of a career. I mean, just imagine all of the uh, all of the people in the academy who
Oh
are
yeah.
so excited about what they're getting ready to do, and you ask any of them, why
Sure.
do you want to do this? And it's like, because I want to serve, because I want to give, I want to help, I want to make a difference. And you talk to a 20-year veteran, why are you still doing this? Well, because I got 5 years to go before I can get my pension. I'm stuck here till then.
Right. Right.
The story changes
Sure.
so much over the course of a career, um, and it's sad to watch it happen.
Jason Gould, who is a Washington County sheriff here in central Vermont, who just he worships you and the work that Call for Backup does, and obviously very well how passionate he is, because he's become very involved with your organization, and he's now a certified instructor for Call for Backup and is bringing this program to first responders here in central Vermont. God bless you, Jason, for doing that. I can't believe that it hasn't existed prior to this, but he's bringing it here. This is a free um, course for first responders, but of course, nothing is free. You guys also ask for some donations, and you have some fundraising to help support Call for Backup, because there's a lot to it.
Sure. Yeah, we are a registered 501c3 charity. So, people can donate, with confidence to Call for Backup because it's uh, approved by the IRS. The deductions are, or the contributions are tax deductible if you exceed that threshold, the way that they have the the income
Yeah.
tax situation
Yeah.
geared these days. A lot of people can't actually deduct their itemized deductions anymore, but nonetheless, it is a trustworthy cause to contribute to. And the idea is we definitely want to keep bringing this training program for free to any first responder, any department or agency that asks for it. We're gonna make sure that they get that training one way or the other. Um, the instructional time isn't really free. The travel expenses aren't free. you know
Right.
the uh, the materials that we use, the handouts, the production costs of videos that are professionally filmed and edited, and all of those things. None of that is actually free,
Sure.
but we depend on the generosity of supporters to be able to continue to bring the training free to any department or agency in the country that
Wow.
asks for it. And the last in the last 12 to 15 months, we've done that in over 20 different states. Uh, Presented the program probably I this is kind of off the top of my head. The program has probably been presented about 75 to 80 times over the last year in about 20 states, a little more than 20 states. And all of that has been due to the generosity of people who say, you know what, I believe in that, and
Yeah.
I want to support that. And so we've been very blessed, very fortunate to have generous folks that have said, yeah, I'll step up, I can help, I can do something. It doesn't have to be a huge gift, but something, of course.
So callforbackup.org, I'm guessing, is an easy way to make a donation to the program. Now, with COVID-19, you're basically offering this as a virtual 3-hour session. Is that right?
That's true. Normally, when I teach it live somewhere, it goes for between 3.5 and 4 hours, just because there's more of an opportunity for discussion and interaction, and
Sure.
people abusing their break times. And if I tell them to take 10 minutes, they take 18. you know
Right.
so the class does last longer when we do it live,
Yeah.
but we've got it pretty regimented with the virtual training, and so we limit it to 3 hours. We've got a countdown timer on videos that are playing through the breaks, and so it's worked out really well. And we've got 2 sessions coming up in May. That one is already filled to capacity, and the one for the last Thursday night in May is already half filled to capacity. We're trying to limit it to about 25 people in the Zoom environment, just to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to get their questions asked and answered, and those kinds of things. We don't want the groups to be too big, but we actually did it for the first time just about a week and a half ago. Was our first virtual class. And it was kind of funny because if you've been following Mike on social media, he talks about his underpaid producer all the time. And
Yes.
Elijah is our underpaid producer. And when I first started talking to him about doing these classes virtually, my idea was, help me make sure that I have, the best webcam, and those kinds of things. And I'll just sit in front of the screen and I'll teach, and I'll see everybody on the screen and all that stuff. And it's like, nope,
Right.
no, we can't do it that way. So like, I was sitting here staring at a camera, and he had his control booth set up on my kitchen table and running the whole
Yeah.
broadcast from over there, like a live TV broadcast. And
Sure.
it
Sure.
was amazing to see how that worked. And of course, after the classes, when they come to a close, we put a link in the chat window to say, here's a link to complete the course evaluation. And the comments that we were getting were just fantastic as far as the
Yeah.
quality of the broadcast and the interaction that we were able to generate, even in the virtual environment. And one of the people, the comment was, "I would have never known that this was the first time you've done this." That kind of thing.
Wow.
So it was really rewarding to know that, again, because of the generosity of donors who make that kind of setup possible, that we're still able to put out a very high quality broadcast to get that message out. And we're just thrilled to be able to keep doing that. We're gonna schedule probably 2 to 3 a month. And I imagine that even when I start traveling again after the travel restrictions are lifted, that we may still want to keep doing these virtual classes for people who live in areas where maybe they work for a department that says, no, we don't want that training here. We don't need that
Yeah.
training here. But somebody in the department is interested and says, well, I'd like that training. Well, now here's your chance. Jump in.
Yeah.
It's still going to be free.
I would think something like this, I don't know, it just seems anyway like it's just something that should be mandatory. I mean, it's almost kind of a no-brainer that it should be mandatory in all departments. I don't know. That's just my take on it.
Yeah. Well, I would like it to be, but then I would like people to actually um, anticipate getting something of value from it. And there's, as we talked about a few minutes ago, there's there's just a lot of negativity that builds up
Sure.
in the minds and hearts of personnel over the course of the years, and they just they create that culture that says, nope, we don't really need this. Something happens on my shift, I just go home and have a few drinks and forget about it, and
Sure. Sure.
that kind of
Or
thing. And
suck it up. Or
yeah,
suck it up.
yep.
Yeah.
So, but there are people who, and I've had a lot of veteran personnel comment after the class that, you know what, this was not at all like I thought it was going to be, and this was, one of the most engaging types of training that I've been to. Um, and to hear comments like that coming from veteran officers uh, is very gratifying to know
Isn't it
that it's
Yeah, isn't it remarkable how many uh, first responders, people in the field, may not show, especially these types of fields, show any signs that they're contemplating suicide because we have a front, that we maintain, and we have to maintain it all the time because that's who we are. That's who we've become. I mean, look at this. Did you hear about the head of the ER department at the Presbyterian Church
yeah,
hospital in New York
yeah,
City? Just
yeah, I did, yeah.
unreal, man.
Horrible,
Unreal.
horrible situation.
One of many, many, many examples.
Yeah. um, yeah, that facade is real, and one of the things that I think is important is, it's okay to maintain that facade um, with the public
Sure.
when you're conducting yourself in your
Right.
profession.
Of
You've
course.
got to have that air of confidence. You've got to have
Control.
people
Control.
believing that you know what you're doing and that you're doing it well, you're doing it efficiently, and so on. Um, you've got to learn to take that mask off and let let people who are important to you know the real you, and have conversations with people that help you purge some of the junk out. I use a couple of different analogies when I'm teaching the class to help people try to understand what it means to learn how to sort of go with the flow of the stressors, and not
Yeah.
not to let them build up too much. One of the analogies I use is, a junk drawer. Like, I'll ask a class, how many of you have a junk drawer? And everybody chuckles and raises their hand. How many of you have two junk drawers, one in the house and one in the garage? How many of you have three junk drawers, one at the house, one at the garage, one at work? you know
Yeah.
um, and everybody understands that. It's like, you can only put so much junk in there, and um, we almost never take anything out of the junk drawer. We're just
That's
trying to
true.
shove more stuff in. And at some point, you're going to try to shove that last thing in the junk drawer, and the bottom's going to fall out, and you're just going to have junk everywhere. That's what unfortunately, I and my peer supporters that we have at Humanizing the Badge and Call for Backup, that's what we see with people. We get to talk to people when there's already a mess that needs to be cleaned up, and trying to help people to understand how to manage that junk, and prevent that big mess from happening. That's one of the key things that we try to talk about in the class. Some of the
And
strategies that you need to employ.
and I've heard I've heard the folks in the profession say, you, you know um, I have to shake it off, or I'm too busy to think about it. It's they go from one stressful situation right to another. Could
Yeah,
be within the same hour or the next day, or I'm too busy to think about it. I just have to, quote unquote, do my job and go home to my
yeah,
family and be the best husband or the best father as I possibly can. I wonder what these folks very quietly think privately to themselves just as they're falling asleep. But I've heard paramedics and I've heard police say, I can't get too caught up in it, because if I do, I'll be less focused when I'm in action. I can't be distracted. There it is. That was the word
yeah,
that I've heard
yeah,
before. I can't be distracted by emotions. That you've
yeah,
got to purge. I heard you say the word purge, and that's spot on.
yeah. And you have to do it frequently. The problem is, if we wait until we're forced to purge some of that stuff out, um, some of the damage that has been done may be already irreparable.
Yeah, could be too late.
So when we're on, we've got to be on, no doubt about it. But when we're off, we've got to take advantage of being off and take care of ourselves, and you know do whatever is necessary to um, sort of cleanse all that adrenaline and cortisol
Yeah,
and all of those other stress related hormones out of our system. Because you're right, I mean, even in one of the towns where I'm a reserve officer, in the space of about 45 minutes one night on one shift, we had a rollover accident with somebody trapped in one of the vehicles, a house fire that was catching the house next door on fire, a house fire on the other side of town that had a woman trapped in a room in the house, with the house burning around her, a missing child report, and a baby not breathing. You know, those, I mean, five really significant things going on within the span of about 45 minutes in a town of 62,000 people. And people are running from one call to the next, and you don't get a chance to let that adrenaline even drain out of your system. You
sure.
just keep pumping it and pumping it. And honestly, the more addicted we become to adrenaline, the more likely it is that there's going to come a day
Yeah,
when we're going to need that rush of adrenaline to get through
sure.
something really big, and it's not going to work.
I don't know if you've ever followed Dr. Joe Dispenza, but he has spoken the same way about that. He talks about the neuroscience in the brain and how we fire and wire based on adrenaline, and how we can literally program our brains to be, uh, I don't know, to just be always in survival mode.
Yeah, and we're not designed to live always in survival mode.
That's
We're
right.
designed to respond to the alarm
Sure.
when it goes off. And most people, I mean, what research says is that about 50% of men and about 60% of women will experience one traumatic event during their lifetime. First responders, and people who work in emergency medicine, they're experiencing multiple traumatic events over the course of a career. some, over the course of a week or a
Yeah.
shift.
Right.
They're
Especially
experiencing
now.
these traumas. So, it's so sad, especially like you say now, to hear um, friends that I have in the medical field talking about holding an iPad so a family member can say goodbye
Yeah.
while
Right.
their loved one is dying in the hospital alone.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
and those kinds of things just chew on you and eat away. One of the videos that we show in the call for backup training. And by the way, all of the videos that we use in the training are actually on our call for backup Facebook page. Anybody can just go there, click on videos, and scroll through any video that we've ever put out there and watch them. But we did an interview with a sheriff's deputy here in Michigan, who he goes by the name Tonto. His last name is Taranjo, and he says it's too hard for anybody to pronounce. So he says, people just call him Tonto. Um, but he talks about the stress of being a combat veteran and then going into law enforcement after that, and some of the things that hit him pretty hard over the course of his military and law enforcement career. But one of the quotes that he uses in this interview, and honestly, everything was unscripted. Um, I couldn't have written a script as powerful as just the way he communicated this. But one of the things that he said is, once you look the beast in the eye, he reaches in and takes a bit of your soul. That's the price you pay. And I think a lot of our first responders and emergency medical folks that we're recognizing more these days, they're looking the beast in the eye all the time, and they're always
All the time.
losing those bits of their soul, and it's not being replenished.
Right.
And we need to replenish it in order to be well.
I know you've got some commitments in just a few minutes here, so we're going to wrap up. But one final question here: what is a police chaplain? What's a typical day in the life of David Edwards? What do you are
Well,
you a man of God with a pistol on your belt?
pretty much.
Really?
Yeah, I've actually been invited to speak in churches, and I'll ask them,
Yeah.
do you want me to wear a suit or do you want me to wear my uniform? And oh yeah, wear the uniform. And it's like, okay, you got to understand, if the uniform is on, the duty belt is on,
Right.
and there's going
Right.
to be a big gun hanging there.
Yes. Right. That's right.
so so
Guns in church.
so yeah,
Hey, where
um,
are you in where are you in Michigan?
just outside Detroit.
Okay. Yeah.
So my hometown is Taylor,
Yeah.
and so we're actually for those listeners that might be familiar with the geography of the Detroit area, we're actually closer to the metro airport than we are to the city of Detroit.
Yeah.
In Taylor, we're about, like, I can leave my house and be at the terminal to catch a flight in about 7 minutes.
Wow.
Um, so Taylor is, like I said, it's my hometown. Um, I became a police chaplain first in the city of Taylor following the line of duty death of my son. My son Matthew was the first officer killed in the line of duty in the history of the Taylor Police Department. And about, I want to say maybe 8 or 9 months after his death, the department asked if I would come on and be one of the chaplains for the department.
Wow.
And so since then, I've become the lead chaplain for that department. I'm the lead chaplain in another department as well, farther south from Detroit. But the day in the life is, I throw the uniform on and I get in the car, and um, you know when um, when officers need somebody to talk to, they love to be able to do that in the sanctity of their space
Yeah.
within that car. They don't have to worry about anybody saying, "Oh, I saw you going in to talk to the chaplain."
Sure.
So it's
Sure.
like, nope.
Yeah.
And I'm out there, of course. And again, I'm in uniform, and because I'm a reserve officer here in Michigan. Uh, I'm the second man in the car. So whatever they need, I'm there to assist with that as well. But a lot of times, if we'll go on, uh, and man, I mentioned this last night on social media. The just the onslaught of the number of suicidal subject calls that police officers and emergency medical personnel are responding to these days. But if I'm in the car and we get a call about a suicidal subject, then I'm probably, once we know that the situation is safe, um, I'm probably going to take charge of that conversation at that point as the department chaplain, just to uh, see if I can speak something into the life of that person is going to convince them to get the help that they need, and sooner rather than later, and help assess the severity of their level of suicidal thinking and that sort of thing. Or I put on training programs for the department with coming in at roll call and just talking for 15-20 minutes about a particular topic, uh, and those sorts of things. So they do keep me pretty busy.
Well, it sounds that I was able to watch a few of your videos on the Call for Backup Facebook page. The relationship equity one jumped out at me.
Hmm.
Loved listening to that, realizing your potential. But the one that I had to go back, and when it was over, I was like, whoa, gotta go back and watch that, was responsibility over response.
Uh-huh.
So this is part of your Character Matters series that you do, which is just fantastic. I mean, it
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. we
Folks can get,
have uh, we have a lot of people who are commenting on the value that they're receiving from those, and of course, I want to put out a message that is concise, but clear and compelling. I want people to be able to sort of lean in and take notice, and understand. Okay, well, where do I fit on that
yeah.
spectrum that he's talking about? And I got a text message this morning. The last video we talked about doing a personal mission statement
Oh, yeah.
to know what your own principles and values are, and to be able to articulate what those are, and then
Yes.
making decisions and engaging in activities in your life that are consistent with your own principles and values. You don't violate your own value set,
Right.
uh, and go along without suffering consequences for that. So I got a text message this morning. There's a friend of mine who is actually in line to be the next chief at one of our local departments, but he sent me a text message this morning with the text of his personal mission statement, and he thanked me for the motivation from that video to actually engage in that process. So
It's a
yeah.
fantastic video. I urge everyone watching tonight to definitely check it out. It's right there on Facebook. Call for Backup is the Facebook page. This is David Edwards, who is the president and the co-founder of Call for Backup, which is all part of Humanizing the Badge Incorporated. Callforbackup.org. And if folks want to reach out to you directly, to comment on tonight's show or to learn more, I think it's contact at callforbackup.org, maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. That email it sounds like a generic email, but it goes directly to my inbox.
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
I see every one of those messages and respond to them personally.
Sir, I thank you ever so much for all of your time tonight. I'm sorry I missed you when you came to Vermont. I know that Jason Gould, a.k.a. Farva, from the Washington County Sheriff's Department, is going to remind me the next time you step foot in the Green Mountain State, and I will be there to shake your hand. Thank you.
I look forward to it. I enjoyed my visit to the Green Mountain State when I was there, and Farva and his wife were superb hosts for me, and he went above and beyond to fill an auditorium space with people for the classes that I was teaching, and just an amazing guy that has done a lot for our organization, and
sure has.
We appreciate that friendship that we have,
and he'll continue
there.
to.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Thank you for all your time, sir, and have a great rest of your night. God bless you, and thanks for doing everything that you do.
My honor. Take care.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.